Hello and welcome to the Music Education Podcast. I'm Chris of the Chris Woods Groove Orchestra, and this podcast is brought to you by the Soundstorm Music Education Hub. In this episode, I speak with Adrian Price and Mike Whitlock, both involved in Soundbeam. Adrian being, I believe, the director of Soundbeam, and Mike being someone who's really on the ground delivering the use of this fantastic instrument. Now, I'll let Adrian really describe what Soundbeam is, but essentially it's a different instrument. It's an instrument with a different interface that enables more accessible interaction, I suppose. And this conversation brings up a really fascinating question, which is around the choice of instruments that we use in the classroom, the choice of the instruments that we sort of immediately suggest for young people or older people to learn. And maybe questioning the reasons behind that. Maybe there's some better alternatives out there. I hope you enjoy listening. Have you worked together for a long time? Maybe are you like?
Yes. I discovered Soundbeam back in Soundbeam 2, and I leapt on it then. So early 2000s. And I signed straight up for their training 4-day thing, and that's where I met Adrian, and they haven't been able to shake me off, really.
Well, that was about the same time that I joined the Soundbeam team. So just at the turn of the century, and on my journey, I met Mike. So we both sort of known Soundbeam for about the same amount of time, I suppose, and when our paths have crossed on a lot of projects over the years. Mike's
Well, that's fantastic. At the turn of the century, our journey began with Mike. I mean, that's beautiful stuff. That is.
It's a fact. Yeah.
It's a fact. Yeah. So, Adrian, when we spoke on the phone, I think you said to me, and I might have invented this in my brain, but did Soundbeam actually start off with the intention of being sort of like a trigger for dancers?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the late Edward Williams, who imagined the thing, he was a composer of note, and he was writing some wonderful music where he was bringing conventional instruments alongside synthesizers and making groundbreaking music for Life on Earth and a lot of BBC stuff. But one of his things was exactly that. It was imagining dancers on a stage being able to create and interact musically with electronics and pull sounds from synthesizers, really. So it was very much an experimental avant-garde concept, which to this day still gets explored in corners of the world. But yeah, that was it. And in fact, it was one of his visitors to his home who had seen this technology, and they were working in a special school in Bristol, which is where Edward was, and where I am now. And she asked if she could try this technology at her special school, and kind of the rest is history, really. Yeah,
that's super cool. So it's it's a completely sort of organic use of it and discovery, right? So it is, I don't know, if you like. It's an instrument in itself rather than a tool that's been specifically designed as almost like as a replacement to normal proper instruments. It is an instrument, and it's just it
was inspired by the theremin you as you no doubt have heard of, which was used in all the old sci-fi films with its that sort of sound where you were adjusting pitch and volume.
Beautiful.
But so but it's, of course, it's a proximity sensor, and the beam can be up to 5 meters in length, or it can be as little as 1 or 3 or 5 centimeters, and anything in between. So it's all about positioning the beam to facilitate the musical performance that the player might want to make. Yeah, and.
That's brilliant. I should have done an audio description there, because as you were just making that wonderful theremin sound, for people who don't know what a theremin sound and the theremin is or does, will just be thinking that you were, I don't know, having a little moment there. but you were also moving your hand in proximity to another object to control the parameters.
I'm prone to having little moments.
Same. I think they should be fully encouraged.
Yeah.
Amazing. So what sort of sets it apart from the theremin? What's the big differences?
Okay, well, the theremin in itself gives you traditionally, back in the 1921, or I think it was, or was it 1919 when it was originally invented? Yeah.
Really? I didn't realise that. That's so long ago. That must have been seen like it was out of space then, mustn't it?
Well, I think I read something recently. They say it was the first electronic instrument. There was that. I think it can. They've traced it back to even earlier than that. It was a Russian guy that invented the theremin. It was very early 1900s. So, there we go. So I think the first electronic instrument, is that right, Adrian? That's what I read, I think.
That. Yeah, I'm sure that's correct, So what sets it apart would be the notion that you can, of course, push the beam very far for physical movement, but also what we've been doing is allocating notes in space. Instead of sliding through and varying pitch of a sound, we can assign any scale or any series of notes to this beam and any instrument, or chords or samples and so forth. And Moog have evolved the theremin. So, the modern day theremins have some degree of programmability, like I've just spoken about. I think that our technology, where you can employ or simultaneously use multiple beams, at the maximum of 4, that will set it apart. And also Soundbeam has evolved to include switches, which is something that, special schools and disabled learners will be familiar with. And switches come in all shapes and sizes. You get jelly, squishy, toggly, wobbly switches. And then these can be connected to our system to allow people to play notes and chords and samples and film and do all sorts of wonderful things in a sort of sonic environment with our Soundbeam system. And it usually is a system that goes out to schools to facilitate, a group of people to make music simultaneously.
Amazing. And Mike, you're using that stuff. You're
every day.
Every day.
Yeah, every day. I think, like Adrian says, the fact for me it's quite a limitless tool. You can program, like Adrian says, like I say, a blues scale into a switch. And then what I've been doing recently is putting that same blues scale into another switch, but playing it in reverse. So one of my clients has 2 head switches, so you can play one way with the other and one way with the other, which even mix it up even more, gives him a little bit more creative freedom. It's just a limitless machine. Like as you said, you can set it out to 5 meters. We could put it in the sports hall for children to walk or play a game we like to call a burglar alarm, where they have to make their way from one end to the other without setting off a sound of a helicopter or a dog. Or we, like I said, we can have it in here and we can have one of our...
That sounds slightly traumatic and triggering.
But it's really good fun. And or we can have it in here. We can have one of our students playing it by blinking. Or it will pick up the smallest of movements, like a twitch of the face. That's just a beam. But the switches really do come into their own because... Like I said, one of my clients has head switches, so I just unzip the back of his headrest and I pull the cables out for his head switches and I plug them into the Soundbeam, and he's away. And he's playing with something he uses every day for either gaming, driving his chair, or communicating with an eye gaze. Yeah. So he's so good with his head switches anyway. Yeah. And now he's writing and composing music with them.
So really, what we're talking about is just how it's just an interface. This is an interface, right? And that is luckily more accessible, I suppose, than again
it's
those.
So accessible. I've been at this school for a very long time, and I've never had a student that can't access music through a Soundbeam. And we get all degree of special needs through here. Very PMLD and autism, and the Soundbeam's just always a winner, really, despite what their condition might be.
It's interesting beyond like looking away from PMLD and just even just physical movement limitations.
Yeah,
and thinking of this. Thinking of the instruments that get used in school in a straightforward, down the middle state school, what's in there, or in a primary school. And it's quite often a collection of very difficult, unengaging instruments, I find. You know, the standard sort of packages that schools can reach out are it's kind of odd, right?
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think there's a lot of fellow practitioners that I meet at the Soundbeam training days and things that would agree with that. Maybe it's time to start moving away from giving everybody a recorder. We're in a time with technology where you can have any beautiful sound in a music lesson. Whether it be through a Soundbeam or an iPad. I mean, like, technology's come on a long way. I would definitely agree with that. I mean, the engagement we get when you hear, and the sounds that are on Soundbeam are fantastic. You know, they're not synthy sounding like sometimes they are. The violas and the violins in particular, you can literally hear a string, a bow going across it. And to see our children's faces light up when they're doing that on a switch or through a beam it makes a massive difference. Massive difference.
I kind of, even though I don't like the recorder as a whole, like as an aesthetic.
I mean, there's a place for everything.
There's a place for everything, but I'm not an avid recorder listener. I dig the recorder from the sense of it's that engagement with breath. So you've got that direct link of, like, you're connecting with music physically, but and that's why I'm particularly excited by the Soundbeam idea, because it's that physical engagement. But then there's so many other instruments that are. I was talking to a friend whose kid was learning the violin, and it's just like. I know him very well, and I was able to speak honestly, which I probably shouldn't do in this podcast situation, but I will. And I was just like, oh man, don't learn the violin. It's just such a. This is for a little kid. It's going to be such a tough. That access threshold is so high.
I've always wondered that. I've always wondered that as well, because we've gone through a spate of that here, and I'm with you. I'm like, well, if we want to hold the joy of music for this student, maybe violin isn't the thing or the way to go. It is the most beautiful sounding instrument once you can play it well. But that journey from your first lesson with the violin to playing it well is a very long journey. And I just think, especially with the children we work with special education, there needs to be an immediacy to, oh my goodness, I'm really enjoying this. Or, oh my goodness, that sounds lovely and I'm doing it. Which you maybe won't get with the violin. And then especially in this sort of setting, in a mainstream school, every now and then, let's say 1 in 20, a kid's going to pick it up and just be naturally really good on it. But because of physical sides of things, maybe not the best way to go. But again, there is a place for real instruments here. We do make adaptations where we can. And we always have, even if our children can't access, we always have something to pass around so they can see, feel and experience what a violin feels like, or what a brass instrument feels like, before we'll play it on a piece of technology.
Do you think there's an instrument snobbery or expectation because people's sort of interpretation of music is based, even though we live in a world that's got so much amazing electronic music that might have been made in a million different ways, there's this expectation that music is performed on these organic instruments and your senses aren't, because I just wonder the validity to like the general public of going out there and playing that. Sorry.
I think these barriers are being broken down by people like Soundbeam and Open Up Orchestra, who are very much about breaking down those barriers, and are very much about including people with special needs in actual orchestras, and that's like the big picture of the Open Up Orchestra project. So we were lucky enough to be part of a project a few years ago where our orchestra played the Royal Albert Hall. I think we were the first ever to play the Royal Albert Hall with Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra. And it was to do with 125 years of the BSO and through Soundstorm. So we had Soundbeam on the stage at the Royal Albert Hall, we had Abby playing it, and that was just a groundbreaker. And it was BSO with technology, and it was a beautiful thing.
Because the same movements, so that it's the same process, isn't it? That going back to that violin, it is physical. It's that loop of hearing sound and changing the movement of your body.
Cause
That's
and
it.
effect.
That's all it is.
That's all it is. Yeah, it's exactly that. So I think the barriers are being broken down. I like to think, anyway. Yeah. But I think there has been a snobbery in the past, maybe. Yeah, I mean, there is the old school music teacher, isn't there? And that's fair enough. But like I say, we are very conscious to try mix the two as where we can, as much as possible.
Yeah. I think when I was I studied music technology for a brief period, and I was flabbergasted on day one when they asked everybody to sort of talk about what instruments you played, and people were saying, some people were saying we play the record decks, it's and that kind of blew my mind a bit. But I was there to study music technology, production, and so forth. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's as we know, there's a hell of a lot of equipment out there these days, electronic equipment, and very exciting. Some of it's terribly expensive, and some of it's on your phone. There's some beautiful things available. And I think that, if a music teacher or wants to facilitate their child or give them the musical opportunities to express themselves, then, there's a lot out there to offer that to them. Yeah.
Adrian, you seem to be set up to show stuff. Are you, which is super cool. Can you, with a perfect audio description? I'm wearing a Marks and Spencer's shirt in blue, and I'm moving my right arm. If you could build the picture, that'd be fantastic.
Okay. What do you want me to fire it up and play some sounds?
That would be cool, man. That would be really great. Perfect.
Well, look, I'll tell you what. I have got it turned off at the moment because for this audio recording, what we're going to hear as it boots up is a little buzzing in space, I imagine, which comes across in these recordings sometimes. But that's the ultrasonic transducer, which will be waking up and doing its job. So what you'll hear, if you do indeed hear this buzzing, is the mechanism of a little gold flap vibrating very quickly as it throws an ultrasonic pulse into the air, and then listens to see if that bounces back off of anything. So just to set the scene, to my left.
It's like calibrating.
No, it's just doing its job. It's just it's spitting out these pulses and listening to them. It's within the brain of the machine that we determine how far we want the beam to recognize an interruption. So just to set the scene, as you say, yes, I'm not too sure who the shirt's made by. Oh, maybe it's Timberland or someone. I don't know.
Oh, I could.
My girlfriend, charity shopper. She's got some great skills. So just to set the scene, I'm sat at a table facing you and the camera in my Zoom scenario. To my left and to my right, I've got these red things that look very much like microphones on microphone stands. And those are the ultrasonic sensors that I spoke of. These are the sound beams. I've also we spoke of the switches on the table in front of me. I've got 8 differently coloured and differently numbered switches, which look like a big block of cheese, really, I suppose you might say. And as you press the face of them, they send a simple message to my controller, which is in front of me. And it's within the controller that we say, okay, what you're going to do with that little message of a press? Should we play a WAV file or an MP3? Should we play some film? Or should we just play a note? Or should we play a sample of a tiger, or a drum loop, or whatever? So I think what I'd like to do, this is a piece that I created recently, and I sent it down to Mike. It's called Crook Peak. And Mike had a play with his students and send a bit of film back to me. So it's kind of a bit hot off the press, but it's one of a range of pieces that are inside here, and it's a little bit unusual in that what's going to happen is that the 4 of the switches, 1 to 4, are set to work harmoniously with what's happening in beam 1. And conversely, then after I've played that for a moment, I'll swap over and play 5, 6, 7, and 8, not necessarily in that order, with beam 2. So let's see how this goes. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll start off by moving my left arm in the beam, and we'll hear what's in that. So that's me moving slowly away from the beam and triggering these different notes. Okay, now I'm going to do that alongside some of these switches. So here comes switch 1. And then I'm going to swap it over. Could go on, but oh, thanks, mate.
Oh, Jesus Christ, keep going on. That was beautiful.
It's lovely, isn't it? It's a new favourite for us, that one.
Oh,
actually.
thank you.
It really is. And the fact that I think more split key pieces would be great. It's really nice to be able to split the 8 switches and 2 beams to 2 halves of a class. It works really well here. They love being that one half and another half and working together.
Oh, thanks, Mike. Yeah, it just fell. It fell out of me just playing around, exploring. I just found 8 nice chords, and then.
But the whole splitting it is more of those, please.
So, as a talking as a musician rather than an educator or a technologist, Adrian, how do you find the experience of creating something, in that way, where you're just moving your hand within space rather than physically interacting, pressing buttons or keys or strings?
Well, I've always been a play it by ear kind of guy. I always struggled in my music lessons at school to understand the notation and so forth. But ever since I was about 11, I've been playing and writing songs and enjoying that. And I think that. And to this day, I sort of jam with some friends, but absolutely improvised and just guessing at, what works and what doesn't. And so, in fact, 9 times out of 10, what I'm doing is probably awful when I'm jamming with my friends. But yeah, so when I've been composing with.
Oh, I see what you mean. Just because of that sort of. Is that from you're not being able to go right? We're in this key, so you can dive in because you're feeling the way around.
I can, when I use other technologies personally. I play the bass a bit and I play a bit of guitar. I use the K oscillator, which is a lovely instrument.
Cool.
And occasionally I dig Soundbeam out and have a play with it. But I use the microphone and I tell stories about what happened in the supermarket that afternoon or just ridiculous stuff. And we just jam and improvise. But it's just, we actually call it Shit Band Tuesday. And the idea is that we're just going to jam and we're never going to play the same thing twice. We're never going to do a cover, and 90% of it's going to be awful. And if it ever gets good, we'll stop. That's the sort of concept.
That's amazing. That's the most creative thing ever. If it ever gets good,
I might have to turn up for one of these, Adrian.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So, but but with that comes a sort of a liberty, a freedom musically, which I think I sort of bring to Soundbeam to a degree, because it's about just trying to set it up so that whatever happens, it's all going to sound harmonious and productive and valuable, and like you're creating something beautiful, really, collectively. So, I'd like to say that I've composed a number of the pieces that go out with Soundbeam, but so have my brilliant colleagues, Cindy and Tim. But also we've had some wonderful contributions from musicians that we know personally, and they're from Bristol, So, there's some artists like This Is the Kit, have great Bristol connection. They've given us a song that's in here. We've got John Baggott, who's done a load of stuff for Massive Attack and Portishead. Pete Judge, Spindle Ensemble, Mog, Fry. And what they've done in essence is given us a piece of music which is very sparse. And then onto that, I kind of often make the executive decisions about what notes and instruments would sit well with what they've offered. So you've got, and Galen Lee, not to mention, Galen Lee, this is a fantastic musician from Duluth, Minnesota, who has disability. She won the Tiny Desk concert in 2015, and I happened to find her on YouTube playing this piece, Someday Will Linger in the Sun. And let's talk about her, because she's extraordinary, and that was a bit of a journey that was a bit of a tangent. But I wrote to her and said, could we use this piece, which is beautiful. I didn't get an answer back. I wrote again, and the manager said she's over at the Green Man Festival, and of course that's just over in Wales. It's an hour away from me here in Bristol, and so I got in touch with a friend who was over there, and he got me in. I went and met her backstage, and we hung out for a night. I had a bottle of whiskey with me, and her husband and the guitarist. We had a great night, and since then we've since organised. I've been part of the organisation of 4 gigs in the UK. Now, 2 were in Bristol that I put on in 2 separate years. One's up at Cheltenham National Star College, which is a college for people with disabilities, and the other, Mike, was down in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, it was here. Yeah, we had Galen Lim come and play here a few years ago. 2019.
In your school or through
yes, in our school. So through Asia. I mean, we do work really closely with Soundbeam. We work incredibly closely with them. So when Adrian told me that Galen Lim was in the country, I immediately got on it, and with Adrian's help, we got her booked in to play here. Unfortunately, I couldn't be here at the time when she played the gig, so I wasn't here for it. But it went down incredibly well, and we'd love to get her back. I mean, obviously, for our students to see someone like Galen Lim perform music is. You can't beat that, really.
That's fantastic that you guys are. There's that sort of interaction with artists as well, that they're creating art for other people to be a part of, it, like an evolving kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and actually, I ought to say that the recent national plan for music education, which was released by the government, within it stipulated about how children with disabilities and other access needs must receive a quality music education that involves performance opportunities, regular performance opportunities alongside their peers as well. And so, of course, Soundbeam, we think, fits that really nicely. But that was released alongside a £25 million capital grant. And the money has been allocated to these lead music hubs throughout England. And Soundbeam, we're delighted to say, has been approved as one of the official suppliers alongside conventional instrument suppliers and so forth, and music companies. So we're on this list of companies, and Soundbeam's on there. So it's possible for schools and music services and hubs to go to these lead music hubs and to ask them if they can support them in some way so that they can access Soundbeam, which is, well, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm now a huge fan of This Is the Kit. And that was because of Soundbeam.
Right.
You know, I mean, I do listen to a lot of Radio 6, and I've heard them on there, but it was Soundbeam where I first heard them. And that is another favourite song on there, Two Wooden Spoons. And it's always been the case that you've used real musicians on there. I remember the Egg stuff on the older model. Yeah, drum beats by the Egg. Got some really good connections there, Adrian.
Well, I've been blessed. There's some beautiful musicians in Bristol, and I've stumbled across so many beautiful people on my journey. I feel I've been blessed. I really have.
Yeah, but it's so lovely and user friendly now. That's what I'm loving about the Soundbeam 6 is I think there's a lot of. I'm visiting all our local schools at the moment through the government grant doing audits, and there is still a real fear of technology in the music room, and I understand that, you know, but there really doesn't need to be when it comes to the Soundbeam 6. The interface itself, it just speaks for itself. There's no. Okay. You don't have to be a tech head to use it, or you don't even have to be a musician to use it. I'm like Adrian, I'm not classically trained. I can't read music. I dabble exactly the same as Adrian. But with the Soundbeam, you can see you have your beam and you can say, okay, I want it in this key. And then you go through this huge list of scales, or it will bring up a piano actually on the screen, and it's a touch screen like an iPad. So you can play anything in, bang, it's in the Soundbeam, and it's on a beam or it's on a switch. It's that immediate. Or they're there for you, or you can just sample straight in. But it has now been made for someone that isn't a musician, for just any.
That's what we've been trying to do for 40 years, Mike. You know, as it's evolved, obviously it started off in the dance and avant-garde world, but it's had to be something which is for the non-musician and for the non-musically technically minded as well.
And I feel blessed that I've been on that journey with you, because obviously when I first discovered it was Soundbeam 2, and I was a little bit of a music tech head, so for me, not too bad. But for someone in the class, any of the other people I'm visiting, it was still very much tech-based jargon, if you like. And as someone, I started going to schools to train, and the first thing I would do is translate. You know, it's like, transpose just means higher or lower note. Or you know, and just translate your thing. And of course, technology's moved on. We don't need to plug that head unit into an exterior sound card or anything like that anymore. It's one box, like a big iPad, and it's just beautifully simple and immediate. So I can now, with this machine, if one of my students comes up with a really good creative idea, we go, okay, let's do that now. Rather than, okay, I'll take this home and I'll see if I can program that in and bring it back tomorrow and see if we can do that. Those days are gone. It's like, okay, let's make that happen right now. And love it.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I would have imagined most of our conversation would be originally around, for this episode anyway, around access to instruments for students. But music is so inaccessible to so many on so many different levels. Even as teachers, that idea of, okay, maybe you're a real classical teacher, really traditional, sort of old school, and actually any tech might be. Obviously, these are horrendous generalizations to enable a conversation, but you know, any tech is inaccessible to you. And then on the other hand, like, you know, a notation is going to be inaccessible. There's just a difficulty to access stuff all the way, isn't it? But it seems that you guys are sort of giving access to all teachers and students
we try.
Together.
I'm very big on spreading the word. You know, it's all about sharing what you find out. It's all about, I mean, it's not about personal professionalism or anything like that.
We don't want any of that here.
No, we don't want any of that. You know, I mean, it's not like it's helping my bank account. So it really is about, do you know what? I've realised that this can do this, and I want to tell that school, and I want to tell that school, and I want to tell Adrian, and I want to tell everyone that, this can do that as well. And I think a lot more that's happening. There's a lot more groups of us now, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, us practitioners are now regularly meeting up, and we have regular sort of quarterly meetings with Alex Lupo and Jack Grace, who was on your podcast a while ago. And there's a whole bunch of us that meet up about 4 times a year, and that's great. And the meetups that we have with the Soundbeam practitioners, more of that, I think. A lot more of that,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I feel the urge to mention it, but a few years ago we commissioned David Ashworth, who's got a leading music educator, and I think his focus has always been on technology. But we asked him to sort of produce a series of a 7-chapter compendium of ways to teach elements of the national curriculum for music with Soundbeam specifically. And so that's something that's been available for some years now, but it's through seeing other people using Soundbeam and how they use it, which I think can be very inspiring to teachers, whether they're digging out an old system or they're interested in getting a new or using the one they got, whatever. But yeah, so our Soundbeam Films playlist on YouTube has got an awful lot of stuff from around the world, where you've got orchestras using it from Serbia, Italy. There's a band in Portugal, Cinca Pancada, who were on stage with Coldplay doing their closing number in a stadium last year. So there's a whole raft of lovely bits of film which just bowls us over when we get to see them, because very often we've got no idea what people are doing with this technology. And also you've got the privacy or the permission rights of students, which is pretty rare to get to put film of these students out there on the internet. But more and more little posts are going out on Facebook and Instagram, which it seems to be a bit of a community appearing there and people sharing ideas and comments and stuff, which is nice.
Amazing, gentlemen. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Chris,
for pulling us in for this. It's been lovely to meet you.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. Thank you.